Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Black and Blue Pod. I'm your host, Matt McLaughlin, joined alongside by Timmy Gorman. And we did the Western Conference last night. Tonight, we're doing the Eastern Conference because we just want to blow our load all over the Philadelphia 76ers pretty much. But we'll get to them shortly. And we're going to do same thing as last night. We're going to be going through playoff prediction standings, some award candidates, and whatever else comes up throughout this podcast. So we'll start with the standings part. I didn't even necessarily do I did do standings, but I kind of grouped each team with like a specific trait, just because it feels like the West, I feel like, was much more easier to sort out compared to the East. And with the East,
that's been forever since that's been the case, right? When you think about it.
Yeah, exactly. So it was kind of more like tiers. I did some tiers.
I did the same thing kind of in my head. It was like there's a ceiling and a floor for certain teams, and it's like almost like for me, it's like my top six I have is like rigid, but like no one's getting in and no one's going down. And then the play-in teams I have like in some motion, like some formation, but I kind of look at it the same way. And there's some wild, like just like the West, we have our own Clippers of the West and the Nets in the East, or the Clippers of the East and the Nets. You have a couple other teams that are out there, a lot of young up and coming teams as well. But the majority of the power with the really good teams, it's going to be a dogfight to get in. This isn't your older brothers Eastern Conference where 39 and 44 got you into the playoffs or whatever it was.
Yeah. So we'll see where we disagree on our like tier system. So tier 1, I call this the 3 C's group, the clear-cut contenders. I have Miami, Philly, and Milwaukee in that group.
There's one in there that we differ on greatly. Then again, we did yesterday too with the Suns. It's just reversed.
Yeah. Second group, I have the Evil Knievel group. This is a group that's just jumping the shark and they're just going all in on it. And this could end either very good or very horribly. Cleveland Cavs, Brooklyn Nets, and the New York Knicks. Just simply because of the free agency and offseason moves that they've made that, again, could end horribly. And we'll talk about that as the podcast progresses.
You got 2 old-time references there in one shot with the Evil Knievel and jumping the shark. Congratulations.
Thank you. Appreciate it. My old-timey references are maturing. My next tier, the am I crazy tier for thinking that something could go their way and then possibly they sneak into the playoffs and maybe make some noise. I have the Detroit Pistons with all their youth movement and some of the early potential flashes that we've seen from not just Cade Cunningham last season, but some of the preseason glimpses from Jaden Ivey and Jalen Duran and that whole core. Sadiq Bey had some great games last year for the Pistons. I have Indiana. I really sold on Indiana's young core, and I'll get to that in a little bit. Not saying, again, this tier is not these teams are going to be top 6, but they can make some noise and sneak into the playoff or the play-in and then get to the playoff. Chicago Bulls, with a fully healthy roster, I think this team is very different, and I think that's going to be huge for them moving forward. If they can stay healthy, I think they could possibly sneak into that 7-8 range, maybe even top 6. And also the Orlando Magic, similar to the Pistons, youth movement coming in. Franz Wagner, surprisingly, is kind of another good white boy, which is surprising in the NBA. And Banchero is going to be massive for this team. And really, they got to figure out what their point guard situation is, because obviously Fultz is going to be getting some playing time. Jalen Suggs is going to be making headway for playing time. Cole Anthony, what are they going to do with him? Fultz?
No, Suggs. Didn't he get hurt or something? Like he got carted off last week or something in a
I have not heard anything about that.
So
but
I'm assuming he
is.
It was
I have not. Orlando Magic feel relief.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah.
Yeah. Woj tweeted out a couple of days ago. Jalen Suggs avoids serious knee injury after collision. So he's all
So
good there. I did not know that. Thank you for bringing that up.
knee sprain and bone bruise.
Oh,
Timeline for return not set.
okay, gotcha. And finally, last group, the no shot group, which is just the Washington Wizards and the Charlotte Hornets, simply because I don't know how the fuck these organizations are going to conjure up the talent to play on the same page and make headway to get into the play-in, let alone when they're dealing with the Wizards is trying to rehab Kristaps Porzingis. The Hornets fired Sean Clifford and then brought him, or not Sean Clifford, Steve Clifford, and then brought him back as head coach just a couple of years later. And Clifford feels like the guy that should not be coaching a guy like LaMelo Ball, if that makes any sense.
No, yeah, he doesn't seem like he's the guy that should be. Yeah, I'll never understand why they fired Borrego. I thought that was very stupid. I thought he was doing a really good job with that team, and injuries kind of got in the way. So yeah, that organization is another one that's just they never seem to get it going correctly.
Fair enough. So, which team did you disagree with the most? I'll let you speak. I don't want to take a guess, but
So hold on. I guess I should say your contenders were the Bucks, the Sixers, and the Heat, right?
correct. Oh, I didn't even
Um,
include in that group, I think as
Boston.
well. Yeah, Boston. I didn't even
Okay.
include them.
Okay. And then what was your next group?
Cleveland, Brooklyn, and the Knicks and the Toronto Raptors. Did not include them as well. It is a late night. Wow, that was terrible.
No, it's like I kept forgetting. Like when I was doing my thing, I kept going back and being like, "Oh wait, there's one more team. Where are they?"
Yeah.
Cavs, Nets, Knicks, Raptors. You said,
Correct.
and that's what are you calling them? Like
The Evil Knievel group. They're jumping the shark. They're throwing everything and the kitchen sink at this. And I think really with
this season's like they're all in. It's like the
yeah.
Rams last year for the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and I think the Raptors they have to be coming on a decision about Pascal Siakam moving forward because I think he's at a point in his career. He's a great talent, but I want to see more from him, especially with his jump shooting and his health. His health was a problem the last couple of years. And obviously Scotty Barnes showed a lot of promise. And I'm wondering, can that pairing necessarily work well together? And if it does work well together this year, great, fantastic. You got two franchise cornerstones, but Toronto just feels like, okay, this is the year to decide who is really going to be a long-term piece.
Right. The Siakam thing's going to be a really big. It's really going to weigh heavy. Like, what are they going to do with that Siakam thing? That's what, and they're going to have to figure that out. Or else I think, I don't think, I don't know. I will hold on. I'll get to that in a second. What was your next group that it's
The am I crazy teams, the teams that could make some noise, the Pistons, the Pacers, the Bulls, and the Magic.
so basically the majority of the Central plus the Magic.
Pretty much, yes. I
No,
mean, do
I feel
divisions even matter in NBA? No.
outside of seeding, no, not really.
Yeah,
Pistons, Pacers, Bulls, Magic.
correct.
Okay, and what was your last one?
The no shot group, Wizards
Okay.
and Hornets.
Okay. So did you have a set like one through 10
Yes, I
yet
did.
or
Yes,
okay.
I did.
Would you want to do
So
that or would you want me to do you want to do that and then I can do my own like way of like digesting
yeah.
how I would rack those groups.
So 1 through 10, I have 76ers, Bucks, Nets, Cavs, Celtics, Raptors, Atlanta Hawks, Chicago Bulls, New York Knicks, and Indiana Pacers.
Okay, so I got Sixers, Bucks, Nets, Cavs at the 4 seed, you said?
Correct.
Okay, and then who?
Celtics, Raptors, Hawks.
Celtics, Raptors, Hawks. Almost identical in that for those 4 teams right there.
And
Then the
Bulls, Knicks, and Pacers.
wait, so you got the Sixers, the Bucks, the Nets. So you don't have the Heat making it.
Oh, I don't. Oh, you are correct. I'm an idiot.
That's where I was like, wait, hold on. How were they in your clear-cut
Okay.
contenders? And then
Yeah, no, that is a very good catch. This was late night preparation. I did not.
no, you're fine. Like I said, I was I was forgetting teams too, and I kept getting to the end and being like, wait, I didn't put this team in there.
Yeah, seriously. I think the Heat can make it. I'll slide them in between the Nets and the Cavs at the 4 seed. So I'll have the Sixers, Bucks, Nets, Heat, Cavs, Celtics, Raptors, Hawks, Bulls, and Pacers.
Okay, so Heat, Cavs, Raps, or Celts, Raptors, Hawks. It's Sixers, Bucks, Nets, Heat, Cavs, Celtics, Raptors, Hawks,
Bulls, Pacers.
Pacers. Okay. 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 So, so I'll go through my top 10 first, and then I guess I'll try and group how I would have these guys. So my top 10 is and it's similar to a degree. Just a couple things switch. So I have Milwaukee, then the Sixers, then I have the Nets, the Hawks, the Celtics in the 5 seed, the Raptors in the 6 seed. So that's the top 6 who I think is set. I think right there for me, it is just those are the 6 best in that Eastern Conference, whether it be because they have consistently been there, they're starting to hit their peak. This is a all a bust, go for bust season. One of those other things. Those 6 are the ones that I've thrown there. And then in the 7 spot, I got the Cavaliers, 8 hole the Heat, 9 Chicago, and 10 Detroit. To me, that could go any which way.
Yeah.
I could even see the Wizards maybe crashing at some point into that spot, but that's why I still like Detroit better. I think you could see Detroit get into the 7th spot, and you could see the Heat just languish so bad all year that they barely creep in, or
So
the Bulls.
why do you think the Heat could languish poorly this year and just take a step back?
I just think the age is just finally getting to him. Like you saw it last year, Lowry. It's sad because he's a son of Philly. I remember growing up, like when I was in high school, like when he was 2 years older than me when I was at McDevitt and he was at Cardinal Doherty. And I remember the day that Cardinal Doherty came to play McDevitt my sophomore year when they played us at our school. Our school sucked. We didn't have anybody. Like we were terrible. And Doherty had 4 D1 prospects on their team. And not like, oh, they're going to like Loyola Marymount. Nothing against that, but you know what I mean? Like it was
some
4
remote
legit
out of nowhere school.
Like Holy Cross or something,
Yeah.
They were 4 legit D1 prospects. It was Lowry and Clark. I think Clark originally was when Shane Clark went to Temple or LaSalle, and then he ended up at Villanova with Lowry. But Lowry's at Villanova. Shane Clark was at one of the other city schools. Deshaun White, I think his name was.
Okay,
went to
Kyle Lowry
yeah.
aging.
Yeah, but so like I just remember like so I feel like I've been hearing and listening and watching Kyle Lowry play basketball forever now, because I've been
Yeah.
doing it since I was 16 years old. And I remember when he got to Villanova that in 2004, 2005, and that Villanova team took UNC, and everyone's like, "Well, who's this kid?" But everyone in Philly knew who he was, and it's just one of those things that you didn't think he was ever going to hit that mark. And last year, unfortunately, I just think with the way he plays basketball, he's a typical Philly guard. He's hard nosed. He gets on the ground, dives for loose balls. He's driving to the paint. Over time, he developed a really good jump shot, but he's just kind of been a balls to the walls kind of guy for his entire career, dating all the way back to probably AAU ball. And even with all the things you can do, the mileage I think is finally catching up on him. Not to mention he's small, he's tiny. He's not like LeBron, who's 6'9" and has the body mass to take this on.
Yeah.
And I think last year, unfortunately, is just the beginning of the end. Who knows what's going on with Jimmy? I feel like he's at his apex now with the Heat, where you might start to see him do some wackadoo shit that gets him to that, he thinks that he can pull like he did with the Sixers or the Timberwolves or the Bulls. And he's going to find out real quick. Pat Riley don't put up with that shit. And he'll either bench him or, find somebody to take him. And I think and somehow Pat Riley will win that trade either too, which is the crazy thing. I think we're both in agreement that contract they gave Hero is absolutely ridiculous.
4 years, $130 million contract extension for Tyler Hero.
For a bona fide 3 guy and calling him a 6 man is very generous, because he doesn't offer a lot off the dribble. He's not good on defense, and he ain't super athletic. So why are you paying a guy who can shoot the ball? And it's not like Kyle Korver, who could find ways to get open, or JJ Redick, or Reggie. Reggie had so much more to his game, but you know what I mean. And I just think that's ridiculous.
Even just as serviceable as Duncan Robinson was in the bubble, and that situation is so strange to me, because here was a guy that was averaged like 11 points per game in the bubble season his rookie year. He started all 21 playoff games that season. Flash forward just a couple of years, they're paying him $14 million, and he scratched for the first and game 1 and game 7 against the Celtics. And the only time that he scored over 20 plus points was game 1 against the Hawks. And so it's just a really weird situation where, is Duncan Robinson going to get moved at some point, or the Heat just going to try and cut ties with him? And so you're down one sharpshooter then. Who else is going to step up? Caleb Martin, Omar at 7. Like, as much as I love some of the depth guys that the Heat have, there's still a lot of question marks. And I agree, the contract to Tyler Hero, that's like starting like small forward money. Like that's
that's legit, like top 25 player money.
Yeah, like all-star selection.
That's 25 mil a year.
Yeah, all-star selection, like all NBA at least. And I think that was just maybe that's Pat Riley seeing what you've been alluding to so far, is that the idea that this roster is aging and finally the miles are catching up, and he doesn't have much time left to really decide who's going to be the future. He knows Hero's probably a safe bet. So Riley's probably thinking, let me lock up Hero now. We deal with Bam and Jimmy in the future, and maybe figure out a way to get out of this Lowry contract. I don't know. I don't think that they can, because I can't imagine a team other than the Lakers that would be willing to take on a salary like that.
Mm-hmm.
So the Heat are in a tough situation. And also, so with this roster that they have now, do you think that they should have made a move for Donavon Mitchell and maybe pushed more and given up like some of the packages that were rumored, like a Hero, Robinson plus picks? Or what do you think about that?
But at the same time, to me, it's like, how much better does he make? And I'll get to him, and my feelings on Donavon Mitchell and how I stand on him. But
yeah,
I mean, he definitely would have made that team better. But it's like, where do you play Jimmy, and then where do you play him? You know what I mean? And I think that's two guys who are alpha males that don't know how to back down. And And Jimmy's case, he'd be right for, not once, but he'd be right. I'd actually take his side on this one because he is way better than Donovan Mitchell will ever be, in my opinion. He's actually carried teams further than the second round.
I just don't think so. I'm gonna
He
disagree
would have
with that,
helped
but okay.
him. Jimmy Butler is way better than Donovan Mitchell.
I think Donovan Mitchell is a much better scorer than he gets credit for sometimes.
All around player though. Jimmy's taking teams to the finals. To the finals,
no, that's fair. All right.
That's what I'm saying.
Point taken.
Yeah, Donovan Mitchell might be a better scorer, but I like Jimmy all around. Donovan Mitchell, can't guard a little kid in CYO.
All right, fine. Fair enough.
That's what I'm saying. That's my difference between him. It's not about his offensive ability. That's there. It's his leadership, all that stuff. Anyway, but yeah, they're a team in transition more than they've ever been in the last decade, probably since LeBron left. This is I shouldn't say that because after he left, they were kind of
it's been a while
knowing what to do. It's been a while. Probably in the last 5 to 6 years, this is the first time that they're kind of where are we going? Did we make the right moves in the offseason? The hero thing looks very panicky. You don't know. But the thing is, it's Pat Riley. He sold his soul to the devil years ago, as I've read the book and found out. He always seems to pull something out of his ass. He was Danny Ainge before Danny Ainge existed in a more sinister way. He just gets it done. And no matter what, it's we're all sitting here thinking I can't believe he gave Hero that contract. Maybe Pat's finally going senile, ha ha ha. And then come February, he's gonna have completely changed that roster that's gonna cater to Bam and Jimmy, and Hero might be there, he might not be, and they'll be making a push and they'll be back in the second round going to game 7 and possibly another trip to the Eastern Conference Finals, and no one saw it coming. But as of right now, they're old, got a lot of mileage on their legs, especially since the pandemic. That it's just there seems to be a lot of uneasiness. Fucking Jimmy showing up looking like buckwheat from the Little Rascals. Who knows what he's got doing with his hair? Which is people his hair, but that's actually a kind of a telltale sign. If you show up to work looking like that, just all wackadoo, it's setting off alarm bells to other things going on in your personal life and regular life. I don't know.
I think Jimmy's just that guy. I think he's just that kind of guy. That's just.
I think he's that guy, but he has it in control. I think this is him kind of teetering a little bit.
Yeah, this is where the nuts kind of get unscrewed a little bit.
But then again, like I said, Bam could just take that leap and become a bona fide top 4 center in the league and, make a second team all NBA or something and go absolutely nuts,
And Bam, yes, he got, and I forgot about this. I just looked it up. Bam got the massive extension, the 5-year, $160+ million extension, but Bam is still set up to hit unrestricted free agency by 2026, which would be his age 29 season. So he could set himself up for another huge payday in the future. And it could not be with the Heat, depending on how that team is performing, how much money is going to come his way. I mean, shit, I wouldn't be surprised by then the Lakers throw him a bag just to try and, stay relevant if LeBron leaves or Anthony Davis leaves or whatever happens.
Well, I mean, I think LeBron's gone, but I will say that is a very good point. But there's one name I will give you that will probably hurt Bam's case for getting big money at age 29. And it's something that nobody's ever played with. He's not a contemporary. He's just a former player that probably will still have an effect at that point, and it's Amari Stoudemire. I think people will look at Bam, and even if he stays healthy, they'll look at him, and Bam can't score like Amari could score. Let's not let's remember that. And I love Bam. If we didn't have Joel, I'd love him on the Sixers, but we have JoJo, so that's a moot point. But I just think someone will do it. See it easily regretting it. So that's why I'm down on him. But I'll probably be eating my words come February, and they'll
Yeah.
be back in it. Right now, I think maybe this year is a year that they just don't do as well, and then they retool next offseason even more, and maybe that's where Kawhi goes next year.
Who knows?
You know
Anything,
exactly. Anything
anything's,
could happen. It's South Beach. Um, so that's
but
my real reason that I have them as low as I have them. I guess so. If you wanted to do the tiers like you did, my clear cuts would be the Bucks, Sixers, and Celtics, and even the Celtics are a little wonky, but it's like yes, no.
yeah,
But I that's where I have them, and the Evil Knievel, like this is all or bust. Like you're going for it. I agree with you with the Knicks. Like that's which is dumb because they still have a young roster, but they're gonna treat it as if like they need to make at least the Eastern semifinals this year, or it's a failure.
yeah.
Like,
That Brunson contract, I understand why the Knicks felt like they had to do it, but it's still just $110 million. I hope Brunson lives up to it because it's awesome to see a Villanova guy perform on the biggest stage. But at the same time, I just don't know if that backcourt of Barrett, obviously I don't know, but I'm not optimistic about that backcourt of RJ Barrett and Jalen Brunson working out
mhm,
well. Um, Cam
neither am
Reddish
I.
is
I agree.
Cam Reddish is already asking out of New York. And then
So that'll be
Tom,
his third team in 4 years.
yeah, and Tom Thibodeau is just going to run his veteran guys into the ground just to get an 11-10 seed, if they can even get to a 10 seed and get into the play-in. So, with that being said, it's just I'm not optimistic about the Knicks at all. I think Brunson's a good piece to build on, but I think they have to get rid of Thibodeau first to really
Mhm.
unlock this team for them to be as healthy as they can be and for them to be as productive as they can be. I think they really need a new voice on the sidelines.
I agree. It's like a Thibodeau cycle. There's like a quick corollary is that in uh European like professional soccer, there's a coach. He's a German coach by the name of Thomas Tuchel, and he's essentially like Thibodeau, not so much like in the styles they play, but in how he comes in, changes the team's fortunes. But within like a year to like a year and a half, 2 years, he has just rubbed so many people the wrong way that like he comes in, fixes everything, they win a bunch of shit. Like even like he took Chelsea and they won the
I
Champions
was
League,
gonna
which was
say
a
a
huge
Chelsea
deal.
coach, right?
Yeah, not anymore. He got fired.
But yeah,
But this is everywhere he's gone. He's done this. He did it at Borussia Dortmund. He rubbed people the wrong way before he could even win shit. He did it at PSG without winning things. Then went to um, Paris Saint Germain, PSG, for anyone who's not a soccer person. Then he ended up at Chelsea. They win the Champions League. Um, kind of like are there, but they're not there, but they're sticking around. And then around like midway last year, the rumbling started to come in. Like he's rubbing the people the wrong way. He's not playing the people he should be playing. American soccer fans like myself despise him because he was basically like leaving Christian Pulisic, aka Captain America, out in the cold, and it really pissed us off. But this is basically what Tom Thibodeau does when he comes to these teams: is
yeah.
that he gets results. AKA, they made the playoffs that first year. They were really fun to watch. He, what's his name, had a career year. Who knows if he ever gets back to that?
Julius Randle.
Thank you. I don't know why I could not think of his name. Um,
He's been in the league forever, it feels like forever at this
yeah,
point.
he was JoJo's draft, wasn't he?
Yeah,
Yeah, 2014. Yeah, he was taken eighth overall. Um, and then yeah, they like he gets results, but then slowly but surely he just grinds these guys down, whether it's through too much playing time, through just being a general hard ass, and he starts to rub shoulders like the wrong way with the upper management, then after the players, and he eventually just wears his welcome out, loses any support he has, and by the end of like the third, fourth year, it's just like, all right, Tom, thanks, but we're gonna go somewhere else now. And
yeah,
then he sits on the sideline for a year or two, and then inevitably someone's gonna be stupid enough to give him another chance. That is Thomas Tuchel to a T, except Thomas Tuchel never has to wait as long. And a more North American equivalent would be John Tortorella, who
Mm,
Flyers fans are going to be suffered to deal with, but that's not the least of their problems. Anyway, so
yeah.
I just think that this is the last chance. Like I agree with you. It's an Evel Knievel kind of like they're going for it. They could make the playoffs, but I don't know how Barrett and Brunson are going to get together. Who's playing D there? Like you said, there's already infighting. Julius Randle, was that just a fluke? Probably, but who knows how many people are going to be pissed off? Like, is Brunson, when Brunson doesn't like when it's like December or January and they're like barely over 500, are the fans going to get unruly and be like, what the fuck? Why do we give them this? Like, because like I don't
Yeah.
think they understand what they did. Like, I love Jalen Brunson. He's not a number one, and I think these Knicks fans are thinking like, yeah, we got him, but they're gonna have these expectations, and then when they're not met, they're gonna turn on the guy, and it's gonna be like, well, what did you expect?
I think he can be what Chris Paul is now, as in a very good floor general, can be a good
Mm-hmm.
leader in the locker room, and can get guys the best shots possible, and maybe can rip off like a 10-0 spurt, a 12-0 spurt, 13-0 spurt by himself and change momentum of games. That being said, I do think that the Knicks need a piece to be the certified scorer and the bucket getter, which Julius Randle is not. I think he needs another star to play off of, and
Mm-hmm.
maybe Brunson is that guy. But
Or Barrett takes a leap,
Barrett, I really hope RJ Barrett takes a leap. I'm really rooting for him, just to see him, be a. We've talked about on this podcast numerous times, allowing players in any sport to develop, and RJ Barrett definitely fits that mold of a guy that should be allowed to develop and has
Mm-hmm.
developed the last couple of years. With that being said, I just think that they need something at the shooting guard spot, maybe even the 3-2. It's just going to be maybe Barrett fills that 2-guard spot, and he can play both positions if you really need him to. Obi Toppin, what are we going to get from Obi Toppin?
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. We haven't even talked about Obi, and like it's like, yeah, I think this is another. He's another one where it's kind of like this is a make or break year, unfortunately. And I'm not saying it's going to kill his career, but I think Thibodeau was probably the last person that he needed as
He's
a
not
coach
going to
when he
play
first got
Obi
into the
Toppin.
league.
He is not going to
No,
play
but
Obi
the Knicks
Toppin.
fans want him to play, and that's the problem. But what is he? I guess is the best thing, like because he doesn't have a great shot, and it needs to be developed if he's ever going to become it, and he's going to need that. He's not a great ball handler, and in college you can get away with that kind of shit, but like there's only certain people that can get away with that stuff in the pros. Kenyon Martin was one of them that figured it out because he was a phenomenal defender for years, and that he even developed like a little bit of a low post game and had an okay shot. But Obi doesn't really have that, and he's even not that athletically as much of a freak as people would like to think. I like him. I would like to see him succeed. I just don't know if it's going to be there or it's going to be something like they let him go, and then he ends up on San Antonio when they're starting to round back into like another 10-year run, and fucking Popovich works his magic, and he becomes like a more athletic Leandro Barbosa or something.
Yeah, exactly. It's just going to be weird. Mitchell Robinson. It's going to be a weird front court rotation. So the Knicks. I mean, right now, do you think that the Knicks make the playoffs?
I don't see it. I really don't, and I don't like it's like I can't even be like I really hope they do because it's a New York team. So I don't like it makes me just not want to fucking care.
I kind of want them to make the playoffs just to see more side talk videos and just, hey, yo, Trae Young, fuck you. Fuck
Yeah,
you. Just see more of those
I
videos.
think it's big for the league too.
Oh, yeah.
I
Yeah,
think it's big for the league if
for sure.
to have them in it. So it's a good
Sweaty
market.
do-rags and Tims just outside Madison Square Garden.
Spike Lee losing his shit when someone inevitably cooks them for 55 in game 3 or something like. Yeah,
Exactly.
it's
Well,
yeah, I agree.
speaking of Trae Young, another team that's retooled a lot. Lose Kevin Huerter, but they bring in DeJounte Murray. The John Collins situation still hasn't been resolved. He's been rumored for trade. He's been rumored to be traded for years now at this point. Still
Like
has a pretty
going back to the year that they beat the Sixers, not before that.
exactly. And it's kind of you could put the Hawks in the Evil Knievel group of like, fuck it, this is our year. We have to see what Trae Young is made of, because this is really a referendum. I think it was, I'm not going to steal this take. This was from, believe it was Waz on the Ringers NBA show. Said that this season is a referendum on Trae Young, not just as a talent, but can he be a franchise guy that can lead the locker room and lead a team to a high level of play? Because we've seen for the last few years Trae Young complaining, and showboating and all that stuff, and he draws the comparisons to Steph. But for Steph, he leads by example in Golden State. He's not nearly as, shall we say, boisterous on social media. And
not as much of a ball hog, not as much of a
seriously,
defensive liability.
and that's what's
Never
going to
let
be
his team the
interesting.
bad pass. So sorry.
No, it's okay. That's a good point. Like, how is Trae Young going to move off? Can he finally move off the ball and succeed off a teammate that can score with him? That's what's going to be fascinating to watch. I think people are kind of viewing DeJounte Murray as, oh, he's just going to be the yin to Trae Young's yang, and it's just going to balance everything out with defense and unselfish play. And it's just not going to work that way. DeJounte Murray became an all-star in San Antonio for a reason, by scoring. And I think looking at this Atlanta roster, it's gonna be tough. Like, I definitely don't see them making an Eastern Conference Finals run like they did a couple of years ago. Maybe they get to the second round, but even then, they're going to be fighting against some tough teams that are more physical than them, or a team like Milwaukee, who has Giannis, that's just going to stomp all over inside the paint against those guys that they have down low. I just don't see how Atlanta can really compete defensively with some of these other teams.
So I guess then for me, they'd be one of my am I crazy teams, because I am, I guess, one of the people that's buying into the DeJounte Murray hype. I think it's going to hurt not having Pop as his coach, because you can't underestimate what Pop does to put players in good situations and how he helps them become better basketball players. And even those that don't necessarily succeed with them, like, I'll be very interested to see what Lonnie Walker does in the Lakers, or anybody that's left that roster over the last year or two, to see how they develop a little bit more, because Lonnie Walker had so much hype and everything. And that's just one case anyway. But I think I'm one of those people that maybe I am crazy that's just buying into all this hype of the Hawks, because now not only do you have someone that can cover Trae's liability on defense, you also have another creator, another ball handler. So it's not just the teams stacking on Trae and forcing him to get rid of the ball, because now you have DeJounte to bring it up. Like you said, they lost Herter, but I mean the roster was becoming a little bit kind of gluttonous per se. Like, there was just too many mouths to feed. The John Collins situation, yes, I think could have a negative effect, but I think that'll hopefully get resolved earlier. And I think he's better off just staying there. He makes their team a little bit better. I've always been a fan of John Collins, even though he is like one of those players that he can look so good and then end up on like a segment of Come On Man where it's just like, what the fuck were you thinking with that move? Like, it's just very weird, like how his game fluctuates. The big mystery, as always, as it has been for the last 2 to 3 years, is DeAndre Hunter. If he's healthy, if he's fit, if he can be their defensive rock that helps them out and is there to basically clean up the mess that Trae leaves behind because he doesn't know how to play defense, it's like a syphilis to him, that it could be huge. But if he's constantly on and off the IR, not knowing what he's going to do, right, then it'll hurt them. But I'm very bullish on the Hawks this year, and I'm not a big Trae Young guy. I especially after when we lost to them in the Sixers lost to them in the playoffs, it drove me crazy to like watch them.
Oh my
But
God, yeah.
I I think that the DeJounte Murray trade really has me bullish on them. And I think if Hunter stays healthy, you get a full season of Collins. You have who's the other young dude they have on their team who's like the center? Onekwu? Is he on that team?
Oh,
Right?
Okongwu?
Yeah,
Onye
Okongwu.
Onyeka Okongwu.
He's not I like him, he's nice. So the pieces are there. Nate McMillan is a good coach, and he's been doing it for years in this league. He kind of might be like and here's another comparison I know, but he might kind of be like the Buck Showalter of NBA coaches, like always the bridesmaid, never the bride. But that doesn't mean he's bad. He gets teams to the playoffs. He was the last person to be the coach of the Sonics playoff team. He took the Blazers there multiple times. He took the Pacers there. You saw what he did the first year with his team. I'm very bullish on them. Call me crazy, but that's why I have them as a top 4 seed. I see them winning that division because of the Heat's regression, and I could see them. Like you said, like I don't know if they make it to the. I don't know if an Eastern Conference Final run is in the cards, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's Game 7 and they're in Milwaukee or Philly, and they're throwing up Dukes again, trying to steal another Eastern Conference Finals bid if everything goes according to plan.
No, that's fair. And to kind of contrast it with another trade, with the Donavon Mitchell trade in Cleveland, it's kind of like an opposite effect that they want, that Cleveland wants. Cleveland wants Donovan Mitchell to be more offensive, take the burden off Darius Garland and Evan Mobley, because that offense looked completely inept in the playoffs. And you're kind of bringing me around on the Hawks a little bit, but I just don't know. I think I just haven't seen enough of Trae Young working off the ball to really be sold on him. All of a sudden, working on catch and shoot threes like he's Klay Thompson or Steph and running through that offense.
It's crazy that he can't do that for like everything he does and wants to like brag.
We just haven't seen it. I don't know if he can't do it. We just haven't seen it yet.
I think he's just too lazy to learn it, is what it is.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I think he's just such a selfish player, and this is why I'm saying, like, call me crazy, because this is how much I'm not a Trae Young fan. Yet I still believe, because I think this is just how much of a DeAndre Hunter, John Collins, DeJounte Murray fan I am, that I think they can finally be the right people around that little shit to corral him and be the proper players that kind of, because I think that locker room is fed up with his stuff. And now that you get Murray in there, it can kind of be like, all right, cool, Trae, we don't need you to be the ball handler because we have an all NBA guy now. You ain't the only one in here. And you know what? He actually plays defense and feeds the ball to his teammates. So you can either get in line and you can still be the star and we'll help you make an even bigger star, or you can pout and bitch and we'll trade you somewhere.
I don't know if they're ever going to trade.
They're never going to trade him, but you know what I mean? Like it's just like, but if that team gives up on him, then they have to rebuild, and then it's like, what do you have?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. No, that's fair.
Well, why don't we go with the Cavs? Because I know you're a lot more bullish on them than I am. I was obviously very wrong about Mobley, and I admitted that. But we know how I feel about
that was a tough Mobley take. That was
I just didn't say it, man. I just watching Evan Batty just absolutely own him for 3 times in one season when he was at Colorado, when they played against Colorado that year. I was like, if you're getting, nothing against Evan Batty, was like, if you're getting manhandled by Evan Batty, who is 4 inches shorter than you and outweighs you, but has 50% less athleticism, what are you going to do in the NBA? And he was just playing dumb. He was, playing possum. So, but yeah, so we know my feelings of Donovan Mitchell. I'm also not the biggest Darius Garland fan, but that comes from being a spiteful Vanderbilt guy. So I'll let you, host, have his floor back and try and convince me like I might have just convinced you about the Hawks.
So with the Cavs, the biggest concern after this season was offensive firepower, because towards the end of the season, Darius Garland, everyone knew that Darius Garland pretty much
And
go ahead.
health.
And health. Yes. And health.
Sorry, continue.
Fair enough. Darius Garland pretty much was the engine of the offense, especially when Ricky Rubio went down. Entering this season, Rubio comes back as a very solid backup point guard that can run the second unit or play some key minutes down the stretch of like a first half in a playoff game, as a guy that can really slow it down and keep the younger guys composed and not necessarily losing their cool, especially on a road game. With Evan Mobley, the defense is there. The defense is absolutely there.
Mm-hmm.
I think losing Markkanen will actually be addition by subtraction, because I think for as great as Lauri Markkanen is as a stretch three that season, where they had that weird lineup of Markkanen and Mobley and Jared Allen in the front court.
Where did he end up?
Markkanen?
Yeah.
Oh,
Is he
it
on
was.
the Kings too?
He might be. You look that up. I'll keep going.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. That's a good question. But with the addition of Mitchell, what?
Jazz.
Danny Ainge is getting the most Utah Jazz looking players on the team. That's
Poor
a master.
Lowry. His whole career has just been one oversight after the other.
Yeah. But
anyway, sorry.
So this team had I think it was the 6th worst offensive rating at 106 points per 100 possessions. You had Donavon Mitchell, a guy who is a bona fide, can get 30 plus points in a playoff game or in a regular season game. I still think that guy that was going toe to toe with Jamal Murray in the bubble and dropping 50 pieces left and right is still in there. I just think he was in the wrong situation towards the end of it. I think the relationship with Gobert completely soured. And now that he has a fresh start in a city where if he does win, I know if he won in Utah, they would have cherished him. But if he wins in Cleveland, that is a different level of love, especially with it being hypothetically the first championship without LeBron on this basketball team. And he can be the next mentor for Garland. I think he's going to have some great pick and roll action with Mobley and Jared Allen. I think this offensive unit with Mobley, Allen, Darius Garland, and Donavon Mitchell will work much better than in contrast, the Minnesota Timberwolves with Gobert, Mitchell, Edwards, and Cat, because I think these guys are less selfish than the Timberwolves for. And
yes and no.
You could say no. I think.
Sorry. At the end. I keep interrupting you. My bad.
No, it's okay.
I will. I'll mark it down for the end.
It's fine, but I think when it comes to winning, I think Donavon Mitchell does want to win. I think he just needs to be in a situation where the winning is, or not the winning, but the locker room is much more cohesive and much more together compared to towards the end of Utah. It was just. You get these reports of them hating Mitchell and Gobert hating each other. The relationship was unsalvageable at one point after Gobert infected Mitchell with COVID. And it was just some of these strange reports. And I still think Mitchell's that guy. I think he's still that bona fide scorer. And I'm rambling, I know at this point, but I think he's going to add the right scoring punch. He's in the right situation, and he can really step up and be a leader for this team.
So I do, and you're right. They were fun last year, and Darius Garland thing is just more, like I said, it's more of a petty spite based off of the fact that I thought he left Vandy high and dry the one year that they were really relying on him, and it set them back. They still haven't recovered. That used to be the one sport they could rely on before baseball got really good, and that's what pisses me off about it. That said, the unselfishness and selfishness factor, I don't think that there is actually selfish. I thought that Mitchell was the selfish one, and like we talked about yesterday, I don't fault Gobert for having the feelings he had. It's just you don't say them in public when it's I'm just not going to clean up your fucking mess anymore. And he's going to have to clean that up a lot this year in Minnesota. But on the flip side, it's like, and I get it. No one really knows that whole COVID thing that happened. We can only infer from like, it's like, oh, we touched the mic and he did this. And I think the shitty thing on Mitchell's part is that as a teammate, regardless of where you guys were, he just jumped on board with everyone else like shitting on Gobert and basically trying to make him seem like he was patient zero that like gave all of America COVID,
Yeah,
and it was
no,
just
I get what you're saying. I get
it
what you're
was like,
saying
come
from that
on,
point.
dude.
But I think
Exactly.
it's
You know what I'm
also
saying?
the context of the situation at the time. We were still under the belief that COVID could kill anyone at any given time. And it was this.
Well, I think this is before we really knew that they could do that, but there was that fear. Like we were like, it was
Yeah.
more the fear of you don't know how you're getting it.
Yeah. Exactly.
And I just thought that was a really shitty move for someone who's supposed to be a team leader. And so now he's going to Cleveland, a town that is necessarily probably still LeBron's, just like Chicago's will always be Michael's to a degree for Bulls players.
Yep.
That you have these two young stars in Garland and Mobley, that one of them he's going to have to share the ball with. And while I get that he is there to help him out, and I think he will give them a lot of offense, and as you said, defense, Mobley already has like 90% figured out, which is a huge thing because defense can always be one of the last things that young centers have trouble figuring out. It's the offense. He needs to be a little bit more aggressive, but I do agree, like you said, like at the end of the season last year, it was just Garland running in circles trying to find something out. I think having Mitchell means they'll be less reliant on he's the ball hog that just is kind of the ball. He's the ball stopper that they picked up at the trade deadline. Karis LeVert.
I was gonna say Karis LeVert.
If it lessens the need for Karis to be that important, I think that makes Karis that much better to the team, more influential. Ricky Rubio come back, but then there's another instance where it's like he's the wise old veteran, and it's like Mitchell want to kind of play that role, and they get mad when everyone's looking at Rubio and not him. Is he going to be like there's intangibles.
Yeah.
And I feel like that Donavon Mitchell has proved over the years, not just there, but in college, that he has a little bit of an attitude. And when things don't go his way, he's prone to outbreaks and hissy fits. And it's just, these are some young guys. There's going to be some growing pains. And he's going to have to understand that this isn't just going to be like they're going to come out swinging and they're going to make the Jazz from 3 years ago. They got the first seed, it's going to a little bit, they're going to be good, but there's going to be some hiccups, and he's going to have to understand that like they're not going to be fighting for the top seed, at least in my opinion. Yeah, they're going to be fighting to be one of the top 6, and they might get there. I think they're just on the outside, but I think how Donavon Mitchell handles the season is going to go a long way to telling how the Cavs season goes.
Oh, for sure. All right. Do you want to talk about some of the younger teams? I know, like, just to address the elephant in the room, Brooklyn, we're never going to know anything about Brooklyn until they really hit the floor. And for right now, I have them penciled into the playoff.
But I agree with you that they're an Evel Knievel team because they're this is all in. Like, because if it doesn't go, Kyrie's going somewhere. They might trade Durant. Who the hell knows what's going on with Ben Simmons, except the fact that it looks like his shot got worse if you check Instagram.
Oh my God, that was a fun day to be on the internet.
Ben, buddy, why would you do that when you know there's cameras around?
Don't.
Yeah, just don't open yourself up to that kind of embarrassment. But yeah, this is probably Nash's last chance to get a winner, which I don't understand, because if it doesn't work out for the Sixers this year and we give Doc his marching orders, I would fucking gladly take Nash. I don't think Nash is the problem. I think it's their 2 stars being little bitch ass divas that cry and bitch and moan when they don't get their way. And for as much as everyone wants to point the finger at Kyrie, he is that person, but Durant isn't much better. And the like you said, the Simpson
So,
the
the
Ben
Homer
Simmons
Simpson issue.
thing. Yeah, the Ben Simmons thing is a huge X factor. On top of where's the rest of the roster and who are they going to fill the holes with?
TJ Warren.
Like, and I like TJ Warren. I kind of wanted the
Yeah.
Sixers to get him until we got who we got, and DeAnthony Melton and a couple of the other guys. But I think we'll save the end of this for our Sixers love. But at the same time, you can't forget that it's Kyrie and it's KD. And as long as it's the regular season and they're healthy, they can just go out there and flamethrower teams, especially ones of lesser talent, to death for 3 quarters and just put it on easy street for the fourth one to save their legs. Playoffs a whole different other story, but if they come out cohesive, there's no longer the vaccine issue with Kyrie, all that stuff. You're hopefully getting anywhere between 65 to 82 games out of all of them. That's why I think they're a top 3 team. But it's the playoffs when it really becomes what's the real question. The Celtics, I think everyone knows the elephant in the room is what the fuck's going on. What did Ime do? I think you're going to find out a lot more. Unfortunately, it's probably going to unravel a couple people's personal lives. I think the prevailing thought that the last that has been mentioned about it is that the person he was having an affair with was someone's wife, a higher up in the Celtics organization's wife, and that he may
Really?
or may not have knocked said wife up. That's the last I had heard someone say or mention about it, but I think it's going to be kept under wraps for a while, and then I think like in like January, February, out of nowhere, someone's going to get some information, or some disgruntled Celtics employee is going to be pissed off, and they're going to leak something to the paper, and some lives are going to be ruined, unfortunately. So I just hope for the best possible outcome there, but I think it's kind of like last year. It's going to take time to adjust, but they still have the players. And I think getting what's his name that they got in the trade. Um,
Brogdon?
yeah, I think if he can stay healthy, always a big caveat with a lot of these guys, he'll
Yeah.
be a huge boon for them. So that's why I still have them up there with the Bucks and the Sixers. And then I added another division because I thought maybe that to me I was packing too many people in one division. So I said the yo-yo division, and that's the Pistons or the Magic.
Yep.
And I
Yep.
think it's like how you would we're on the same. It's like they could be. There's going to be a lot of highs and lows, and at some point, middle of March, they're going to have to take a deep look, like long, good, hard look in the mirror. Sorry, that's what I meant to say. At themselves and say, do we like what we have? We feel like we should go for this to start blooding our guys with playoff experience, or breaks, call the dogs off and see if we can get one of these 2 guys that apparently can't misses. But I think for those 2, they have the Pistons got Cade and Ivy, and like you said, it's Cade, Ivy. They got Sadiq Bey, and who's the fourth one?
Jalen Duran.
They don't. Thank you, Jalen Duran. And then the Magic. They have Paolo. They got Suggs. They got Franz Wagner. If he can ever stay healthy and put it fully together, it's definitely a part of that. Wendell Carter Jr. Like they got a nice young core. That is Wagner the guy was their rookie from last year? Didn't they have another one too? Did they pick? Was it Suggs? Yeah, it had to be. Duh.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was
that's
Suggs.
him. Yeah. So Suggs and Wagner.
Don't beat yourself up over Gonzaga draft prospects.
Who was their guy the year before then?
Hold on, I'm looking.
Because isn't that what they're? It's like Paolo, him, and Suggs is like what they're, and Franz.
Franz was drafted 2021. Not Gary Harris. It wasn't Jonathan Isaac.
No.
RJ Hampton?
No, but he's the one they got from he's who they got from the Nuggets. that was
Yeah.
supposed to be the big deal.
Oh, yeah.
So maybe he's the guy that I'm thinking of that they're including in there. That
Yeah, because right now I don't see any names that are really popping up in my head like that. Mo Bamba. Okay,
no,
how much
yeah.
time is he really going to get? And Gary Harris was signed away from the Nuggets, so I
Well, no,
think.
he was traded. He was part of the Aaron Gordon package.
Oh, that's right. Duh. Okay,
That's him, and it was him and Hampton and like a
right.
pick or something.
That's right.
So,
Good call.
but yeah, so I think that it's those two teams, especially the Pistons. Well, actually, both of them because they both have kind of been in purgatory for a while now.
Seriously.
It's let's go out there. Let's see what these guys can do. Like I said, maybe it might not even be mid March. It might be early March or late February, like right after the deadline, where they say, or maybe it's just the deadline. Actually, that's probably a better way to put it. At the deadline, it's they take a long, hard look and they say, do we like what we have, and is it worth tanking? And if we do that, does it upset these guys because they'll read it as what, you don't think we're good enough? Did you have to go and get this French kid or this Scooter Henderson or whatever his name guy is? And so it's those two are very interesting to see. Are going to be very interesting to see how it plays out, especially the Pistons, because Dwayne Casey is probably another one of those coaches that is very respectable, but is he the guy that can ever get you to the promised land?
Mm.
So is he just there to get these guys like ready to be like to get them like matured and ready,
I
or is
think
he the guy that's going to lead them?
we're going to see a new Dwayne Casey because of this young crop of talent that's coming in that actually has potential compared to some of the abysmal rosters that they've had in the past. I'm very high on Detroit because I think Cade can be an Isaiah Thomas type catalyst, and Jaden Ivey can be the Joe Dumars to his Isaiah. I think Jaden Ivey can be an off-ball second option that can run the offense, and maybe Cade get some off-ball action. And with some of their big guys, they're not the best. Obviously, Marvin Bagley going to be out 3 to 4 weeks. That's a tough loss for them to deal with.
Already?
Yeah. It sucks because it feels like he was finally getting a home there, and he was really gaining some momentum in his career. But thankfully, it's nothing serious as a month, or not a month, I should say multiple months, or possibly the season.
I
Because I
don't know
believe
who has a worse history luck for former big Duke big time recruits, him or what's his name that was on the Bucks that was supposed to be the guy before Giannis.
Ilyasova, or not
No,
Ilyasova,
no, no.
Karolinko.
The Duke guys. He was
I
the
don't know
number two pick.
college.
He was the number two pick in between. Um, he got taken number two after Wiggins.
Oh, Jabari Parker.
Yeah, between those two, I don't know who's had the worst luck.
Seriously,
And they both were taken in drafts with like what like lifetime
generational
generation
talent.
talents, and they were the second pick that was just like forgotten about, and it's not necessarily because of the talent, it's because they just never been able to stay healthy or be on the right team.
Yeah, and I think it is unfortunate, but he got that new extension, and I think that the Pistons are really going to have some games where you are going to check the box score late at night. It's like, oh shit, the Pistons are up by 11 on the Warriors going into the third quarter or going into the fourth quarter.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's going to be a lot of those type of moments, and maybe they snatch some of those games and catch some of these contenders by surprise. I want Detroit to be back. I think the NBA is better when Detroit is back and that the city is rocking, that arena's full, and I would love to see Detroit contend. Obviously, I want the Sixers to win the title, but
Right.
yeah, I'm really high on Detroit. And similar to Detroit, just kind of sidetrack here, Indiana, kind of similar situation. A lot of young talent. Excuse me. A lot of young talent. Tyrese Halliburton's going to be running the show. I think pairing him with Benedict Mathurin, I believe I pronounced that correctly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think that's going to be a really dynamic duo that could really play off of each other. especially when Matherin's coming off I think he averaged 17 points his last year in college. They got some depth with Nemhard and Duarte also at the guard spots, and they have some size with Jalen Smith and Miles Turner for now. Miles Turner is still in Indiana, in the front court. So Indiana could give some teams some problems with their youth and some of their size down low, especially, which could open up some pick and roll opportunities. And this game's all about spacing, kicking it out for threes, and just whipping the ball around. I think they're going to get a lot of those chances. And so Indiana is also another team, could be a very good last minute, late night, bet the spread or bet the money line, Indiana Pacers, to maybe catch an upset and get yourself some extra coin along the way.
So that's where I don't know about the spread or but like to me, the Wizards are that team for me. And I don't mind the Pacers, but I think that at least the Wizards have the established star and Beal. It's kind of like they're caught in that like weird in between, but it's like they have Beal. Who knows what Porzingis is ever going to be, if anything, in his career ever again? But they have these accumulation of high draft picks now. They finally got rid of Ernie Grunfeld and all this bullshit that was going on. They got a new coach, or they brought in a new coach last year who seemed to be decent. So like it's kind of they don't have any choice but to go for it. And I think that they could definitely go out there and cause some issues. I mean, they don't. It's not a lineup that's going to win you a title, but it's also not a lineup that I think is going to just like lay down on the floor. I think Kuzma looked good once he got out of LeBron's shadow last year. DeLon Wright and Monte Morris are good depth at guard. They got not Thonmaker, but his brother. They got the two Gonzaga boys and Kispert and Hachimura. And I think at the end of last year, Hachimura really started to become a little bit more what they hoped he could become. Obviously, I still have hope for him as a Gonzaga guy, and I still think Rui can put it all together. Kispert, listen, Kyle Korver didn't become Kyle Korver overnight in the NBA. There's still plenty of time. Someone will give him the chance, and if it's not the Wizards, somebody will, and he'll make good on it. They added some veteran toughness in Taj Gibson. Daniel Gafford has proved to be like a serviceable back end, and then they bought Low and Vernon Carey Jr., who a couple years ago was a really high prospect going to the Duke. Didn't have it really pan out in Charlotte, so maybe he can become something for them. And then they have this last pick and Johnny Davis. So like there's talent there, and there are a lot of high draft picks. You have Bradley Beal, and I think there's kind of a win now mentality. I'm not saying they're going to like the Eastern Conference semis or finals, but I can definitely see them getting in, whether it's the play-in round. They're definitely the play-in round is where it would be, like somehow shocking, some like pulling off an upset where they win 2 games.
They could be
get in there.
They could be what the Magic were in 2019 against the Raptors and like steal a game on the road in like a game 1 or a game 2.
Absolutely,
for sure.
It's just one of those. They'll be frisky enough. Anytime you're going against Bradley Beal, it's dangerous because he can just get absolutely like lava hot on you, and it's so that's my. Not to just downplay your Pacers theory, because I think they got a lot of decent talent too, but I think that it's going to take them a couple years.
No, Washington does have a lot more veteran experience, which will come in handy.
And the Pacers have Rick Carlisle.
Yeah.
You can't, which is a very big caveat to bring that team along. I just don't think they're in any hurry. And we'll see what they end up doing with Miles Turner too, because that could really tell you where that season's going. So
yeah, for sure. So
Sixers,
let's wrap it. We'll wrap up our like team coverage with the Sixers, then we'll maybe touch on some awards towards the end, because we had trouble covering awards last time. With the Sixers, as the season gets closer, I'm much more excited about this team, and I'm buying into the idea of them being the legitimate number 1 threat in the Eastern Conference. Out of all the teams that have gone through overhaul, Miami Heat lost PJ Tucker to who else but the Sixers. Getting DeAnthony Melton from the Memphis Grizzlies, who were the number 2 seed in the West last season, huge addition. James Harden, I know he joked about losing 100 pounds, but in the preseason so far, he does look lighter. He looks more engaged, which will that happen on a November Thursday night in Sacramento? We'll see. But for now, Harden looks engaged. Tyrese said he's learning a lot from Harden and picking up fouls and getting to the line more, which if there is one area I would like Tyrese to improve, it's getting to the line more and just drawing more
and
fouls.
finishing at the rim as well.
Well, that he's so fast that he's at the free throw line and then all of a sudden he's underneath the rim and he has to like go behind him to throw up a layup.
Well, he's fast and tiny is the two things that kind of work. It's one of those things where I think Harden can also teach him how to use his body to shield himself from getting blocked. But so that's a great thing. That anytime you hear that your young guy is learning from the veteran in his position, it's music to the ears.
Exactly. Compared to the Celtics, who are dealing with the whole head coach controversy that is unprecedented in the NBA, the Bucks don't have Chris Middleton to start the season, which I think will hurt them in the first maybe few weeks-ish of the season. The Raptors
He's still hurt?
Yeah, he's not going to be expected to start the season. And it's just been that the Milwaukee's just been like Fort Knox. They're not going to say anything about it for the time being. And Toronto gave Philly problems. We all know that. But in the end, the Sixers still closed out. And I think in that game-winning buzzer beater was a very vindictive moment. And I think that's going to be a huge confidence boost against the Raptors moving forward. That being said, and then some of the other teams, we've talked about the other teams, they're very long shots, but I just, it's very possible that the Sixers make a huge run and all of a sudden they're sitting on maybe number 2 in the East. And also important to remember, they won 51 games last season, which was the most since the 2018-2019 team with Jimmy Butler and Tobias Harris and Ben Simmons when that whole like
they win 55.
They won 51 that year.
Oh,
or
wait,
52,
I thought we won 52 the year before that. So it had to be at least like 53.
Did ESPN lie to me? No, it's 51 in 2019. 2018 and 2019.
Oh, so they're just saying it was the most tied for most since that year.
Yeah. And so like I'm excited. So Sixers fans should be excited because there's going to be a whole crop of young talent that are going to be developing with Tyrese, Maxey, Matisse Thybulle, Paul Reed. Supposedly all those 3 guys were locked into the gym. The Sixers had to like kick him out a few times, which is always great to hear. And for Matisse, he had a highlight tonight against the Hornets in a preseason game where he caught a pass on the right wing, took a jab step to fake a defender out, drove with his right hand, and then did a little Euro step layup floater to his left, going to his left and finishing with the right, which is exactly what the Sixers need, exactly what they want.
I can just picture that in my head too, like Chris Paul doing that.
Exactly. And for him to try that in the preseason and see that go through the net, that's massive because he's definitely going to be able to do that in the regular season. So with all that being said, the Sixers are the most dangerous team in the East. I think they're the most dangerous team. And if Joel Embiid doesn't win MVP this year, I don't know what else he's got to do. And this is the year for James Harden to shed every doubt, every critic, everything that's been thrown his way by Bill Simmons, Ryan Russillo, everyone that says that he's a piece of shit for quitting on those teams when I mean,
notice how they only said that once he became a Sixer, though. Before that, it was right side of history, this, and that. But it's like, oh, he's on the Sixers now. Let's shit on him.
Exactly. So I think these guys all have motivation for different reasons. I'm sure Doc wants to shed the label of him being a choke job of a coach. So It'll be fun. I think it's going to be a fun season, and I I would like to see more defensive versatility, especially with how that Heat series ended last year. It felt like the Sixers were just getting ran up and down the floor, and the Heat were just bombing away threes. That's got to change, and maybe Tucker, Melton, House, some of these other guys can step into those roles and spread out on the wings and really lock down the perimeter on defense. And then that makes life for Embiid, Harden, and Maxey so much easier. But with that being said, I'm very excited about the Sixers. I think they will finish the top 2 seed in the East.
No, it's there's I agree with everything you said. There's, the caveats that we just with JoJo, it's just always praying that nothing seriously
Yep.
nothing serious goes wrong. But it's been good of late, knock on wood. Harden saying and doing all the right things. So if it's true, I am the same way. I'm all in, very excited. I was probably one of the biggest non-James Harden fans, and like before we got him, and even when we got him, I never was a big fan of making the trade. But at this point, I'm just glad that we got something for the little shitbag Simmons. So we had I'm just glad that one sports GM in the city did something when he knew that his roster needed overhauling, unlike the Flyers and what we're probably going to deal with the Phillies. So Howie with the Eagles, and then what the Sixers front office did with Daryl, they realized they had holes to fill, and they went out and got him. And they completely changed the makeup of this roster. They went out and got PJ Tucker, who's going to be probably the biggest addition in terms of the playoffs because he's going to add grit. He's everything that this team has kind of lacked in certain areas outside of JoJo wanting to fight everybody. But he that's a 3-year contract that might be good for a year and a half. But come the playoff time, it'll be worth it. Like that's when he will shine, and every dollar will be worth it. I love the Montrezl Harrell signing. I think it was a great under the radar signing. He's been a really productive player in this league for the last 5 years. He got his breakout when he was with the Clippers when Doc was still the coach. So Doc knows how to use him. He's better than any backup center we've had over the last couple of years. He can actually create his own offense. He can rebound, play defense, energy guy, the whole 9 yards. The Anthony Melton is going to be a secretly very, very sneaky pickup that not a lot of people are talking about will be good. We got good depth on bench. Paul Reed will hopefully take another step this year, maybe Isaiah Joe. Who knows with Jaden Springer? He's like this wild card that doesn't get talked about, but the dude was a first-round talent for a reason. He was a stud at Tennessee that 1 year he was there. So maybe this could be like he was like Maxey was 2 years ago, and he just comes out of nowhere and just starts to tear it up.
And Morey said shortly after the season ended, he said, I think a couple of days later, that he wants to see Springer get more minutes, or at least earn more minutes, I should say.
They have a role. This is an expected role. And even like the two-way guys like Charlie Brown Jr., we've seen Charles Bassey. Oh, he's not a two-way guy, but he's depth. I like actually Julian Champagnie. He played at St. John. Julian Champagnie. So he played at St. John's, and he is like this is the definition of a bucket getter. I don't think he ever made the tournament, maybe once, because St. John's has been so shitty over the last 2 decades. But that never stopped him from just carving up Big East defenses left and right his entire career. He's a 6'8" guard forward. I believe he's a lefty, but he can still shoot. He can get to the hole. He's kind of like a New York. He's like got that New York Philly combo guard grit, but he's got length and he can actually shoot, whereas most New York guards can't. Is the whole thing on them. And then you still got Tobias, and when I think it's probably great that we're not talking about him a lot because that just less pressure on him. I think is when he thrives.
And I'll give him credit. He was in the Miami Heat series. He was one of the few guys that showed up in those blowout losses.
Absolutely. And then you got the minivan back for another year. A fan favorite. Can't go wrong with it. I think from top to bottom, we have one of the deepest rosters finally. It's not just the 5 guys and then like last year our bench was so bad. It just there's just finally players. They're like the second unit is going to have to fight for playing time, and hopefully it's going to breed competition within the roster so that we can have more than just 5 guys. Because what is it? They say you need at least 8 to 9 guys in the playoffs in case of injury. But that's how deep you need to go to make a serious run. And I think anymore it might be 10 because PJ Tucker can only play so many minutes. So that said, I'm with you. I love our roster makeup from top to bottom for the first time in a long time. There's a lot of faith. Doc knows. We'll see. But I think that Daryl is very understanding of that situation, and that if it's not going the way we thought it was going to go come January, February, he will not be afraid to pull that trigger, get him out of there, and either promote Sam Cassell or go pick somebody else off the street and give them the job that, because in no major sports league in North America, I can't say the world because in soccer it happens all the time, but there's no other major sports league in North America that a coach and the assistant coach comes in mid-season, and does that team end up like on a deep playoff run, maybe even winning a championship, than in the NBA. It happens all the goddamn time. And so not necessarily a death knell of anything. It's just to, change it up. So
assuming Doc does get fired and the head coach, this head coach I'm about to name becomes available, would you rather Cassell or Steve Nash to take over?
If it's if it's next offseason, Nash, but if it's during the season, let Cassell, as long as he doesn't have an issue, like as long as he's not like, well, I can't take Doc's job because Doc got me my starting head coaching. You know what I mean? Unless that's an issue. That's because I think the players really like Cassell, especially with the guards. And even so even in the off season, it might just Cassell just might be the answer. And I'm not saying he's necessarily better than Doc, but read and hear about from this team is that they love everything he does. He's been mooted for a head coaching job for a while. As a player, he was a really smart player. So I'm not saying Doc's getting fired necessarily.
Yeah. No, I think it's an interesting what if
someone that is also being championed to have a possible championship roster. He's also being championed as one of the first coaches fired. So
yeah, it's a weird situation.
It's a very weird dynamic, but unfortunately he's put himself in this situation with too many collapses in the playoffs with us, with the Clippers, I will say that if he were to get fired and then we just promote within or we hire someone and it doesn't pan out, that if Nash is available, I do like him. But another person that I wouldn't mind them taking a look at if he becomes available, if he just gets bored of sitting there with the Pacers, is how much it would cost to get Rick Carlisle to come here.
I don't know if that's a good match. I'm hesitant
said the same
about
thing
that fit.
They said the same thing in Dallas.
That's true. That's fair.
And he finally unlocked the keys to Dirk of what to get Dirk his title. That's I'm just saying, there were so many coaches that tried and came, including Don Nelson, who's one of the 5 winningest coaches in NBA history, and he was more bad luck for injury, but all these other coaches came and people were like, well, Carlisle, what's he going to do? He's a retread. And he was like, well, you're doing all this wrong, first of all. And you know what? Stop trying to make Dirk a defensive player and have someone to fucking protect him. And then he unlocked Dirk's offensive game even more than it already was. And if you go back and look at that roster now, that is not a great roster.
No, I still can't believe it sometimes.
Players, defensive player of the year in Tyson Chandler, and bona fide sixth man in Jason Terry, and then a lot of blue collar veterans that fit in perfectly, like an almost over the hill Sean Marion and almost over the hill Jason Kidd. Anyway, I digress. That's still why I still think that Carlisle is one of the better coaches in the last 3 decades that being on an NBA sideline, and that if the problem is if we're talking about Carlisle becoming our coach next year, this season didn't go the way we wanted to. So I hope that's not the case.
For sure. For sure. All right. Do you want to talk quickly some awards? I got a couple of picks. Nothing too crazy though. One sleeper I didn't mention for sixth man of the year that I think would be not smart, but to maybe a tantalizing pick for sixth man of the year. Kendrick Nunn plus 8,000 on FanDuel. I think he's going to be a massive part of this Lakers season because they just don't have some guard depth to really do anything outside of Russell Westbrook and Patrick Beverley. And also Buddy Hield. I talked about the Pacers. He's plus 5,500 on FanDuel for sixth man of the year. I think he could have some gaudy numbers.
I think he could also get traded to help improve his case as a sixth. Like, there's going to be a playoff team that would use him. I'd take him still. Like,
Buddy Hield on the Sixers with
yeah.
Oh my
God,
I'd
easily take another shooter. You know,
absolutely.
Because okay, you want Korkmans like this and another and like a 2 picks. Okay, as long as they're not first rounders, I'll take Buddy Hield's contract off your hands.
Yeah, seriously. But are there any we talked about MVP last night. Are there any specific awards that you want to hit on or
most improved? I think that he kind of got overlooked last year, so that if not Maxey takes another step, that his name should be thrown in there. I think I kind of mentioned it last night that Mikal Bridges should be definitely considered for Defensive Player of the Year.
Yep.
And that even Cam Johnson, but I'm way more higher on the Suns for sixth man. But yeah, Kendrick Nunn is a really good shout. And, I'm trying to think. There's I guess most improved, maybe like Obi Toppin could be one. If things go the way that they're talking about.
What about an Anthony Davis Defensive Player of the Year campaign?
Let me see what shape he's in, and before I get behind that. Unfortunately,
the afro doesn't convince you.
No, it's just like, what is he? What's his weight? Yeah. I guess you could technically say no, because this is Anthony Edwards' third year, right?
Correct.
So, I mean, I guess but
most improved doesn't. I mean, didn't Ja Morant, or I guess that was Morant's second year, right?
No, I'm not saying the years, but I'm like, if there was a year he was going to win it, don't you think last year would have been the year because of where he was?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Joel's either winning MVP or Defensive Player of the Year. He's winning one of those awards. He just if he realizes halfway through that they're going to screw him again on MVP, I guarantee you he's going to go to them and be like, you know what? I'm just making it my mission to ruin every center that comes my way, and nobody's getting an easy basket on this team from here on out. And because at this point, for him not to have any individual awards is a crime.
It's such a crime. Yeah. All right. That does it for me. Do you have any other last thoughts?
Anthony Simons for most improved, another one. We both are fans
that's a good
of him.
pick. Yep.
Sixth man of the year, Jordan Poole.
Six
as long as he's not getting knocked out anymore.
Yes. Yeah.
So wait, who's your favorite for rookie? Because I don't think we were waiting to get to this. Who are you taking?
So I think the most likely rookie of the year, in my opinion, is Jaden Ivey, because I think he's going to play that well off of Cade Cunningham, and I think he's going to be an absolute monster. If you're looking for value, it just for a gambler's perspective, Shaden Sharp is plus 3,600. We mentioned that last night. Dyson Daniels is plus 4,000. Those two guys, especially Shaden Sharp, he's had a couple of IG clips go viral in the last preseason game that the Trailblazers played against the Warriors. Had a nasty alley-oop and also got to the cup on a smooth layup off a couple of spin moves, I think it was. that type of ball handling and movement without the ball is exactly what I think will benefit this Portland team more than any type of player that they've acquired so far this offseason, I should say. With with Dyson Daniels, he's kind of a flyer that you're taking on him, but I think the potential is there. And in a place like New Orleans, these guys like Herb Jones, Zion, Brandon Ingram, Lonzo Ball at one point have developed there. And so I think he could really flourish in New Orleans. Willie Green, great coach. Who's the famous shooting coach? JJ Redick.
Chip England.
Yeah.
Right? Is that the guy you're talking about?
I think
the guy
so.
who's on the Spurs guy.
Pelicans shooting coach.
He was on the Spurs. He was a Spurs
Fred
guy
Vinson.
for years. Oh, I'm thinking of Chip England. He
Fred
was a Spurs guy.
I think he could help Dyson Daniels' 3-point shot improve dramatically. And so I think Dyson Daniels would be a good flyer to take for Rookie of the Year. But I'm also Jaden Ivey, Shane Sharp, also not bad picks in my opinion.
Yeah, I think I like Ivy could be one, but I think Paolo probably be my favorite, depending on seeing how the Magic go. And then I think my second favorite will probably be Keegan Murray.
That's fair. Yeah, Keegan Murray, he's really showing out in preseason. I really like what I'm seeing from him. And I think we mentioned it last night on the last pod. Sacramento, man, an actual competent offseason, and they could be dangerous moving forward.
Yeah, I think this is the year. Hey, maybe De'Aaron Fox for most improved.
But the numbers have been there for Fox. Like he's averaged like 20 plus points per game. He's shot.
Yeah.
His shooting percentages could be better, but they've been solid. I think with
I
most
guess because
improved,
it's all offensive. It's all offensive based, isn't it?
yeah, it's got to be like how Pascal Siakam won it, or like Kawhi. Like you go from this offensive, like not inept, but like offensively, you're kind of mediocre or pedestrian, and then you make this huge jump to like 20 plus points a game and all these numbers, and then defensively, you're doing whatever. It's so hard for a defensive player to win most improved, though.
What about DiVincenzo?
I don't think he's gonna have a big enough role in the Warriors. That's the thing, is like it's got to be like almost like a 6-man, like
True.
Not really a 6-man. Like Jordan Poole, he can't win. He can win 6-man of the year, and I don't think he could win most improved simply because he already had such a breakout season last year.
Right.
If Tyrese does jump
That's
from
where
like
maybe it's hard for Tyrese because last year probably should have been his, but then I don't think he got recognized enough anyway. So maybe he could still win it.
I don't think he was a finalist last year.
Which is absolute horseshit. But yeah, whatever.
I know. But if he can jump from like 17 points per game to like 23, 24, that's where you start. I think that's where you start seeing Tyrese get pushed onto those lists, and then he'll start making headway into that voting. And maybe Harden slowly kind of takes a back seat a little bit and lets Tyrese flourish. So that's where I could see Tyrese winning it.
Yeah, save Harden's legs for the playoffs if he truly is in shape like he's supposed to be. But you know what save him for what we need him for, while letting Tyrese get his sea legs under him to be a floor general. And like you mentioned it too, and I didn't even hit on it, was like the Thibault, everything about Thibault since the season ended last year has been so positive because everyone in the city loved him for what he did. And then he had just such a weird stretch at the end of last season. And then there was the whole non-COVID vaccine thing. And it was like, he came out and like people like turned on him because of that. And then it was like, well, you're not playing great now because you're not playing all the time. And I think Doc kind of punished him for it, even though like he had his legitimate reasons for not doing it. And he was never lied about it. So he really, instead of letting it affect him this offseason, kind of put his head down and went. And I think the main goal was to get better, but also to win back the respect of the fans and his teammates, I believe.
For sure. All right. So that does it all for all of us here at the Black and Blue Pod. Thank you all for tuning in. Check out our Western Conference preview, just the last episode. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, please. That's the best way to support us. We don't do ads on this show, mainly because I hate when podcasts do ads.
And
So
we're not
please,
popular enough yet.
that's also a part of it. But hey, we get popular by you subscribing. So please do that. And we will check you out wow. That came out weird. That's wrong. No, that was wrong. I'm going to redo that. Hopefully you will check us out and listen to the next episode. Enjoy basketball season. It is here. Let's enjoy being a sports
I hate you,
fan.
Reese Hoskins.